Good morning and welcome. It's July 15th. You're live with my podcast, How to Fight CPS with Bob Pace. I warmly welcome all of you. A loving father with six children, been married for 32 years, and I'm here to help you with the unfortunate luck of dealing with a very bad agency. They're worse than IRS, and I want to warmly welcome you all. Now, this is a interactive podcast. That means you can interact with me. There's several ways you can interact. One way is my phone number. You can call in at 626-698-0990. That's my office line. And I'm available on my show times. My show times are every day, Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. in the morning. So on Sunday, I'm on at 8. I'm on at the evening at 7 p.m. That's Pacific Standard Time, Monday through Sunday. So those are my show times. So I want to welcome you all uh, to my podcast. And so you can call in and I'll put you on speakerphone and you can talk at 626-698-0990. Now, another way that you can interact with the podcast is you can submit comments. Now, when you're typing the comments, make sure it deals with a CPS question. We're here to talk about the child protection system. And so it's very important that you phrase your questions accordingly. There's a lot that we could talk about, but I need to deal with that one. Also, when you text in a comment, please show your name, city, state, or country, and be complete with your CPS case. That means I don't want to play ping pong ball and ask you for information over and over, back and forth, back and forth. And so, um, that being said, the best way to do it is start off with your family unit. Are you married? Or you have partners? Um, do you have the same parents of the children? Do you have multiple fathers, multiple mothers, or what the situation may be? And so, describe your family structure. Then the next thing is that were you accused of neglect or abuse? Were you accused of neglect or abuse? That would help me. And then what the accused of neglect or abuse is, the allegations there. Then you need to tell me, were the children taken from your home? Did you give them away? Did they have a warrant? Was there an imminent danger and they were taken and so forth? And lastly, where you're at on your case. Where you're at on your case would really help me. Um, and so, with that being said, is that uh, that is the second way. The third way is you can be a guest on my show. Now, I have a show producer. Her name is Grace. She works very hard behind the scenes, and I thank her for her help. All you have to do is email her with one of my show times. There's 14 of them. You can say morning or evening, and you can say Friday or Wednesday or whatever day of the week it is. So you tell her in your email you like to be a guest, and then she'll take it from there. She'll give you the link to a StreamYard, which is the application I'm using. I broadcast on YouTube. You found me on Facebook, and so uh, it's very friendly. I'd love to have you as a guest. We can talk about other cases, your case, or what it is I can help you with. So that's the third way. You email to grace at vincentwdavis.com. That's grace at vincentwdavis.com. That's her email. And you just type her email and she'll take care of the rest. So those are the three ways: by phone number, by comments, or being a guest. Now I'm going to put it back up here to my phone number, and that way you can see it. Um, the other phone number that I have on the screen is the phone number of my office to arrange a consultation with my attorney, Vincent W. Davis, that produces this podcast. Many thanks goes out to him for producing it. Also, my rule one is to talk about getting an attorney in your case. Um, I'm not saying you cannot fight the case alone or if you want to use your public defenders, But the best way of defending your case is to get a real legitimate attorney. And you need someone in the area of family juvenile dependency law. That's family juvenile dependency law. And Mr. Davis has 35 years of experience. He's fought CPS. He has gotten the children back. He's also done civil lawsuits both at the state and federal level, and it's got millions of dollars back too. So um, he is offering a strategy session for 30 minutes for $60. He'll talk to you for $60 for 30 minutes. That's $2 a minute. And believe me, those 30 minutes will be the most valuable time you ever spend because you're in with a agency that is worse than doing open heart surgery. If you get open heart surgery, you're going to get a professional doctor. You're not going to have yourself open your heart. You're not going to get a layman. You're not going to get a plumber. You're not going to get an auto mechanic. You're going to get a professional doctor. Well, that's what you need with the CPS. They're very, 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 very corrupt. And also, when you um, talk to Mr. Davis, make sure you mention that I called. Actually, when you first call in, mention my name, Bob Pace, that you called in. And when you talk to Mr. Davis, do the same. Now, if you want to check his calendar, it's Candely, CALENDLY.com forward slash law office of VWD forward slash Bob Pace. You just type in Candely, CALENDLY.com forward slash law office of VWD forward slash Bob Pace and scroll along the bottom of my screen, that ticket. And that's another way to check in there. So, my rule number one is you really need an attorney because the court appointed attorneys, they won't fight for your case. They won't give you time. Their caseload is 30 people. And it's a real tricky thing that CPS is. And CPS is not transparent. Their whole goal is to make money. They make $80 billion a year in taking kids in. And if you don't believe me, the kind of social workers are, all you have to do is look at some examples. In Prescott, Arizona, in the year 2022, there was 8 social workers, all women, all white, and they decided to take upon themselves to buy pink T-shirts. And on the front of the T-shirts, they had, um, "We are professional child kidnappers. We are professional child kidnappers." And on the back, they said, "Do you know where your children are at?" Well, there you go. There's your example of social workers. I'm not saying all 99 or 100% are like that, but pretty much every state I've talked to, which is all of them, in about 10 countries, by the way. I've talked to Australia, talked to Canada, Mexico. In Europe, I've talked to the United Kingdom, Denmark, and Sweden. And then in South America, I've talked to Ghana, which is above Brazil and east of Venezuela on the coast. Big town is called Georgetown. And then there is Africa. I've talked to Mozambique, south of Somalia, north of South Africa, across from Madagascar. Talked to Rwanda, which is near a big lake in East Central Africa. And then Liberia. Liberia is called in a lot. They're on the west coast, northern Africa. Gentleman's name is Archie. He's a scout leader. He really does scouts in Africa. And I'm talking about the Boy Scouts. They don't call it the Boy Scouts anymore because now they have girls in there, so it's just called Scouts. So it's called the Scouts of Africa, I guess, or Scouts of the World, or Scouts of America. But anyway, these social workers I described them. They parade around Costco and Walmart and Target with these pink T-shirts, and the parents' reaction was awful. Anyway, in Prescott, Arizona, in 2022, they were caught, they were fired, and so was the director of child. They call their child protection system Department of Children's Services (DCS). So, with that being said, that's one example, and I have some other examples too. Just recently, a month ago, a social worker from Chicago, Illinois, decided to run an ad from 140 years ago. It was ad from 1848, and on the ad it said black children for sale. Now that was ridiculous. They would run such an ad in the year 2024. On top of that, she is a black social worker. So why would a black social worker run an ad, black children for sale, in the year 2024? The Civil War has been long over, and this ad was before the Civil War, so I have no idea what the purpose of the ad is for. But that's another example of your social workers. A third one, this happened recently too. There was a social worker that was investigating a case, and he went to the school and they went and talked to one of the students who was 13 years old. And he asked the school, I need alone time with her. Well, he took her into a room with no other adult supervision and told her to disrobe, and he took pictures of her. He was a pedophile working for CPS. I know these are extreme examples, but you can't trust CPS. They are not there for you. They're in for the money. They're in for the money. I know firsthand what they can do and what they have done. But anyway, those are some examples. I want to see where our regular room visitors are, so I'm going to go and text them. The first one I'm going to look for is Faye from Richmond, Kentucky, and she's on every time. And sometimes the notifications don't come all the time. Um, okay, Faye. Okay, I am live. Please join me. I just sent one to her. Also, I'm going to see my co-host who's been absent for a couple months because of her computer issue. She plans to get that fixed somewhat, but let me see where she is. Mm, mm, there she is. Okay. Mm, okay. All right. Got Danielle notified, and let me see. I have somebody that calls all the time from West Hollywood, California. Where is she? Okay, we try to get a hold of Natalie in West Hollywood, and hopefully she'll come in and join the show here. I do have people that come in that don't say comments, so they're in here. We have some people here that are looking at the or listening to the podcast or looking at the podcast. Um, I do like to check anybody that's called in after hours because I invite them later when I'm on. Because a lot of people sometimes do that. Let me see here. Okay. Now make sure there's no one else. Let me see another person here. Okay. All right. I think I got all the people that have called in the last little bit. All right. I'm trying to get anybody that I may have missed, and that's what. Um, okay. I think I have pretty much gotten everybody. So I am open for calls at 626-698-0990. And there she is. Faye just came in. Welcome, Faye from Richmond, Kentucky. Glad to see you. And how are you today? How are you today, Faye? I do feel rested and fed. I'm so glad I got paid the last couple of days because I've gotten food in me. I work a lot better with food and rest. I've talked about my first rule. I've already talked about the room and how we interact. Um, the second rule I have is the paperwork of things. And that's why I tell everybody you have to be organized. I wasn't. And that's a big mistake I made. I should have had my paperwork organized and everything. And what I suggest is you get a big 6-inch thick notebook, 3 ring binder, and you stuff it full of college rule notebook paper so you can take some notes. And then you put in subject tabs in it, subject dividers, so you divide your thing by your categories you have. And one of the most important category is the incident care category. What is taking place? All you have to do is write the date, the time, the location, and the people involved on the first line. The second line can be what the incident's about. The third line can be the outcome. And if you don't have the outcome, you can fill it in later, leave space. Then skip a couple lines and do the next incident. And these incidents can be with the police, or it could be with the social workers, or it could be with the school, or with the children, whatever it is. Anything related to your child protection system case. That's what you can do there. And these incidents will be good because you'll remember them in about um, 9 months, a year, because you can't remember everything. You can try to go by yourself. You can't remember everything. So, with that being said, um, another subject is going to be the info that you may find about CPS. You need to write down the names and contacts and web addresses, any notes you have about CPS. That's a good subject uh, section there for you. Sorry for the background noise. I'm broadcasting live from uh, Starbucks out in the out close to the beach. So I'm very fortunate to have an ocean breeze blow up the street, and it's not very hot. Where I know that some of you are like Faye, she is there. Glad to see you, Lori. Um, Lori is a regular room visitor. I don't know what city or state or country she's from, but she always has different names to put in her comment. Today it's about a guy named William Mullins. The other day it was some other people. But anyway, I'm glad to have you, Lori. And I do thank you for emojis. She does leave me some emojis, so she's a seems to be a very sweet person. And Faye, I just can't say enough about you. You're such a uh, a great person to know and have in my life. And so I'm so glad that you're in my room here. Um, and I'm glad that all of you are listening or have come into this room to um, learn what you can do to protect your children and so forth. Now, going back to that notebook, you can have another subject area. You can have your court papers. Your court papers are available from the clerk, the court clerk, and they will give it to you if you're destitute, meaning if you don't have enough money, they give it to you for free. Otherwise, Faye's court papers cost her $2,000, and it's important to have them because there's a lot of things you can learn on them. And you just stick it in there, hole punch them, and put them in range of dates, and there's your section on court papers. You have another section on your parenting classes, your certificate, make a log of your parenting classes. And then you can have another subject section called programs. Those are like your anger management programs, your drug treatment programs, etc. And you can make a list, a log of your programs and your certificates there, hole punch them and put them there. So they're all collectively together. And there's a lot of other things you can make sections of. There's many other things you could probably think of. So it's your book, and it's very important that it's set up the way that you can work with it. It's very important to set up a way you can work with it. And I strongly as I recommend it keeps you organized. I just wasn't organized. I was too much spaced out about this agency that was so corrupt that I could not believe. I mean, I've had dealings with the IRS. I was saying that was a bad agency, but this guy's, especially when there's money in the way, they want money. That's why they do what they do. That's why they're corrupt. They'll child traffic, which is illegal. They'll alienate your children from you, which is illegal. They don't care about your civil rights or your constitutional rights. They peel you apart, especially if you don't have a professional attorney or you're low income or you're hitting hard times. I mean, when you hit hard times, they take advantage of you, and that's sad because you're just a number to them. They get $20,000 per child per month, and in my case, three of my six children were stolen, and that was $60,000 a month every month. And that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. Supposedly take care of the kids. So that's my rule number two. Rule number three is very important because you don't want to talk to social workers. You don't want to let them in your home. You don't let them take your children. And that goes to the police too. Your home is your castle, and no one has a right to enter your home. There's only two ways that law enforcement agencies or that social workers can enter your home, except for some states, they don't care. They don't care about anything. I know Faye in Kentucky, they're so corrupt, they don't care. They don't care about court orders. They don't care about imminent danger. They just go in and do what they want to do. Um, I think Faye. It's so many states are like that. It's so bad. There's different degrees of it and everything. But you're going to encounter the social worker, and if you're outside of the house, very nicely say if they say hi, you say hi back, but don't give them information. If they ask to identify yourself, you just say who you are. Don't say anything more. Let them ask the questions. Try to be yes, no. And if it gets uneasy or at the point where you don't feel like talking to them further, which you don't have to, you just say, I need to speak to my attorney about this and I'll get back to you. That way, it's a timeout. It diffuses the situation. That's true with police or social workers. Again, Faye will tell me that they don't care. I guess they just bull arm their way in. It's hard when you have a state that's so corrupt. She showed me videos of how the police are, and I believe her. I believe her. It's sad because the police and social workers had more people skills, learn how to work with people and help people. The purpose of the child protection system is to protect our children from abuse and neglect, but it's also to help when a family's broken apart for family reunification. It's been proven that the best parents are the biological parents. So it's so important and sad because CPS will use past history. If you've been involved in foster care as a young child, like Faye was 5 times through her childhood, through her teenage years, and so forth, they'll come later and take her children. And she lost her daughter, which was wrongly taken away from her, and she's trying to get custody of her son, who's over the age of 18, by being a guardianship because he's special needs. He's a special needs child, and that's a area that sometimes social workers don't want to deal with. And then the other ones want to ship you off to different states and use an organization called the ICPC, which is a private organization that helps transport kids from one state to another and supposed to protect them. But as I say, that when you are encountering these individuals, keep on side. Now, I mentioned two ways of coming in. One is uh, the court order, and it's a warrant, and it has to be signed by a judge, a real judge, Monday through Friday judge, and it's got to be a wet signature, and then it's got to be further embossed with a stamp that presses through the paper that makes it a legitimate organization, and the date and the time, everything is signed on it. If it looks like a copy, it probably is a copy. Social workers are so bad they'll use copies of other people's warrants and try to do something that's illegal. Furthermore, the warrant has to say the name of the person they're investigating, the children that are involved, and the allegations they're accusing the parents of, or the one parent of, or where the case would be. Then they got to put down the time that they can come into your home, the date and time, and then the address of where your home is. And then they got to put what they're going to do. They're going to take your child, they're going to talk to you, those kinds of things. That's a court document, that's very official, and you have to abide by it. The second way that they can take your children legally from your home is that if you're in the middle of a, let's say you're in the middle of um, a fight, you are punishing your child excessively. You're slamming him against the wall. You've lost your emotions. That child's extreme danger. They will come in. They will come in. Domestic violence is a common one too. Parents are fighting over money or over whatever, and you can't do that in front of children. That's against. You do not do domestic violence. And one thing I like to say about domestic violence, we give time out for our children. But we as parents should do time out too. If we're hot tempered about something, we should take a walk. That holds true at a place of work. If you're upset with your boss or like that, you just say very nice, I'm taking a time out, I'll be back, we can talk about it. And that is very, very, very professional. You can say, I'm taking a break at work. I need to think about what's being said. And then the other thing is that, you know, if you're drunk or disorderly or you do lewd acts or anything like that, the children can be taken from you. Those are the what are called extreme danger to the children, not because they're at school, not because there's no extreme danger. They can't, but social workers will. They violate that all the time, and especially in Kentucky, they do. All right. Faye says, Bob, I want to talk about how the Department of Child and Family and police use the exigent um, circumstances as an excuse to violate your Fourth Amendment right and remove children without court orders. Oh, I'd love to talk about that more. Um, you want to call in, Faye, and talk about it, or do you just want to go to that website and everybody can look at that? I can't go to that website on my page here, and I got to be careful when I look at things. I don't want to be hidden from the screen. Um, but yeah, in Kentucky, They do not believe in extreme. They just take a child no matter what. And a lot of places do too. California does too. My three kids were in school at the time, and I just picked up one of them, and he was with me when a detective that was following me got involved, and they took all three of my children that day. It was terrible. They weren't in extreme danger. They're at school, and since when? One was a private school and two were public schools. So I have no idea what they thought the extreme danger was. Now I'm glad that Faye pointed out the Fourth Amendment. See, we have lots of amendments that help us, that protect us. We need to know them. We need to know our amendment rights and our civil rights. And so, with that being said, Faye, what did you want to do here? Because I can finish my rule number three, and I got the fourth rule, which is pretty easy to do here. Let me see. I don't know if you're trying to call in or what, Faye. I'm checking my phone here. That part's good. My sound's all up. Yep, my sound's all up. Yep. Um, you should be able to call me, Faye. Okay. Anyway, Faye may be taking a moment here. She'll be right back with her. She has a real important sub she wants to talk about how the police and social workers ignore your Fourth Amendment and move children without court orders. That is sad. That is sad. Um, Furthermore, on the rule number three, besides talking to them or letting them your home, the best thing to do is hide in your home when a knock comes on the door. Why I say that? Last month or a couple months ago, May 3rd, um, a veteran of the Air Force, an airman, he's black, he's 24, on May 3rd, he was shot point blank dead in Gainesville, Florida. Now, we have a lot of, you probably not have heard about him. His first name was Roger. He's from Alabama. His mother loved him dearly. He graduated from high school. He entered the Air Force to serve her country. He wanted to do something for her country. Anyway, he was point blank shot dead. And after weeks of investigation, the sheriff was terminated, let go. But the damage, the son's not back. And how he got it is that he answered the door. Now, there's a lot of things you got to think about answering the door. When you hear a knock at the door, you don't know who's on the other side. You may look through your peephole, but be careful staying in front of the door. That door, you can shoot through both ways. You could have a gun and shoot the guy at the door knocking. But if you hear that, best thing I suggest to you do is to hide in the other part of the house away from the door. They'll leave a card or they'll come back later or something like that. But you could, call them when you talk to your attorney. Now, what the sheriff was doing in Gainesville, they got a call about domestic violence. So he's investigating that. He went to the private apartment complex. It was a nice apartment complex. It wasn't shady or anything. And the manager of the complex was showing the sheriff where she thought the domestic violence was happening. She still wasn't sure. And supposedly there was a heated domestic violence going on. And what was really happened, reality, is the young man was talking on with his girlfriend at FaceTime on the phone. And what the sheriff didn't do, and the girl that was showing the sheriff didn't do, is they didn't do any preliminary investigation, like look around, look at the apartment next door, listen in, listen to the walls. But instead, the sheriff just abruptly knocked on the front door. And he did a stupid thing because he could have been shot. He could have been shot dead as a doornail. If you're going to do investigation, and I don't know why they don't teach this in police school, you got to make sure that you keep everything calm. Your composure is calm. You try to look at your surroundings. You look at everything else around you. And then you do a firm knock on the door and then identify right away who you are. You can say, I'm the sheriff, so and so with the Gainesville um, Sheriff Department. I'm here to investigate domestic violence. Are you alone? Are there other people in there? And if the guy says I'm alone, then you tell them, well, what I want you to do is we've heard reports of domestic violence going there. I need to search the premises. Um, and what I'll ask you to do is unlock the front door, but then back away from the front door, lay down. If you have a weapon, put it to your side, not hanging on to it. And then after he does that, then the sheriff can slowly open the door, look in there, and assess the situation. He can get on the back of the guy laying down, take his hands and handcuff him. Also, the sheriff could say not only lay down, but put your hands behind your head. He can push the weapon further away so he knows where the weapon is. And then he can search the premises for any other people. He didn't do that. The sheriff did not do that. I don't know if they teach that or not. If there's any policemen listening, help me out here because I cannot believe they would not teach something as simple as that. Now, I have had police training because I used to be an ocean lifeguard. So I've had police training and how to subdue somebody. I know with good people school skills, you can subdue them a lot easier than you can being harsh or mean or being a Billy, Billy badass or intimidating. And that's what a lot of policemen are. Those are terrible people skills. You need to diffuse. And anytime there's domestic violence, that's the worst thing to use anger or excitement or loudness against it. So I'm telling you this long story with Roger here so you guys don't open the door because I don't want to see you dead. Because the police, for some strange reason, never learned in shooting school of how to put someone down without killing them. I don't know what 5 shots in the heart is going to temper to him. He could have shot the guy in the foot, he could have shot him in the arm or the leg, but why did he shoot him in the heart 5 times? I mean, it's a good shoot, but you know, there wasn't the danger, the imminent danger that needed that. So that rule number three, pretty tough one. And the last part of the rule number three is going to be um, is going to be medical trafficking. What's happened lately? People, their children are injured or sick or something in extreme pain or whatever, and they take them to urgent care or the hospital. You got to be careful where you do so because CPS workers are working there. The child protection system has workers, social workers that work at the hospital, and they will try to take away your child because something you may say inadvertently was taken the wrong way. You know, and so you got to call ahead, ask does this or check ahead. So anytime you use them, do they have social workers that work out of that hospital or the urgent care center, or what it is. The other kind of medical trafficking is when you're pregnant and you go to the hospital and have your child. A lot of people are having their children taken because either they test positive for drugs or the child tests positive, the mother tests positive, they both test positive, whatever. Um, you're supposed to have your child, so you got to make arrangements and you got to ask the hospital up front do they have CPS workers? Do they work in the premises? Can only the people that I request come in my room? Is there supervision? Is there protection there in my room? Those are things you got to do ahead of time. So watch out the medical trafficking because there are cases that the social worker gets the police, they march into the room, you just had your baby, and they take the child still with the birthing material still attached to it. It's gross. They are animals. I'm telling you that. CPS people are not your friend. They're not your friend. So that completes my rule number three. And Faye, is there something you like to talk, or are you able to call in, or I don't hear anything more from you, Faye. My phone is on. I'm checking. So, yeah, it's set for you, Faye, right now. Anybody else like to call in? I'm available at 626 698 0990. That's 626 698 0990. So I'm able to talk to you. Um, um, well, huh. The last rule I have is the rule regarding research. That's my rule number four. You need to research. The power of the internet is so powerful. You can find ways of how to fight your case. You can, find any legal question about CPS there, and it's all by state. And it's very important that you structure your words so that you get the right answer. So if your main theme is CPS, start off with that. But then make sure you put the location because if you put CPS, you end up with all kinds of along by itself. And then be specific what you have to find in CPS, and maybe spell it out, Child Protection System, and spell it out. You know. Um, um, anyway, research is the key to your success. And I cannot emphasize enough. You know, I cannot emphasize enough the research. I have over 106 tabs open up right now with stuff that I researched. They're from different states. They're from different things. One of the most important ones is ICWA, the Indian Child Welfare Act. That was something that Congress passed in 1978, and it's to protect Native Indian children. And I'm talking about the first immigrants that came into North America. That group of immigrants has been more mistreated than any other group. I can say the Africans from Africa have been treated really bad in this country. So is the Chinese, so is the Irish, and so has the Latinos. So, um, you know, this ICWA, the Indian Child Welfare Act, was enacted so that CPS all the time was taking families in, but they weren't doing reunification. They weren't returning the children. The children was a big business for them. They would get them out to foster care. See, the difference between regular adoption and foster care is that in foster care, there's less red tape you have to go through to have a child. CPS controls how the child's given to foster care parents. But in true adoption, you may have to spend years to adopt a child in the United States. That's why people go outside the United States to adopt children from other countries. It is sad that some people can't have children, and I don't blame them to want to adopt a child. There are a lot of children that need moms and fathers, so I'm not against that idea. But foster care has been really abused lately, and my kids were abused in foster care. They were put in danger more so than they were at my home when they took them from school. When they took them from school, that was imminent danger. And if I knew what I knew now, that would never have happened. If I knew now, I would have had an attorney. I sold my house to get my attorney. I lost my house. CPS has stolen my house, ruined my credit, stole one of my daughters, and put my family through hell. My daughter at 12 was a beautiful child. The social worker, 23, in the Orange County child protection system, was assigned to her case. And there was a push by one of my wife's family members to adopt our daughter. We didn't like it. We didn't want it. And so we're fighting it. Well, when the the social worker was put on the stand, my attorney, Vincent W. Davis, by the way, that's who I hired, but it took me a year to hire him. Um, Asked her was there domestic violence in the home that she was going to, and the social worker very smiley lied on the stand, said, "No, beautiful home, beautiful people." Well, he brought up the criminal cases and the things where the complaints were called in and disproving her, and she had mud on her face. She was knocked off the stand with shame. So she told us parents, "I'm gonna retaliate against you guys. You're never gonna see your daughter. You're never gonna see your daughter." And in true form, she told our daughter, who was 12 at the time, "You're going to change your name. You're going to seal your birth certificate. You're going to divorce your parents and your brothers and all your family members. And then you're going to be adopted in foster care." She did all the things at 12. No girl at 12 knows how to do all that stuff. And then she went, and then she's 22 now. We've not still talked to her. And she's had to leave her foster parents because they abused her. They abused her. That's how good foster care people are. That's terrible. Going back to ICWA, I didn't want to not finish it. What it is, it uh, it forces CPS to do some investigation to see if that child is a Native American child, and he has to be registered or could be registered in one of the 547 federal tribes that are recognized by the federal government. And in doing so, that child then, if he is registered or could be registered, is placed into the tribe's hand. The tribes in turn will put him with an Indian family, and they will get that child reunified with the family. The whole purpose is to stop this giving away of Indian children. It was given away so bad for 140 years. It took them a long time to pass laws. 1875, when the Indians were starting to be put on reservations, and all the years of broken promises were so bad then, so bad. So that's one of my topics, the Indian Child Welfare Act. I mean, I have a lot going here. I have about 10 minutes left. Faye, do you still want to talk about how the police use the indigent circumstances as an excuse to violate the Fourth Amendment? EXIG. E. Okay. Okay. Fourth Amendment. For some that may not know the Fourth Amendment, it protects the people from unreasonable searches and seizures by the government. Your police are a government entity. However, the Fourth Amendment is not a guarantee against all searches and seizures, but only those that are deemed unreasonable under the law. So we need to talk a little bit about that. Um, so let's talk in simple terms. Amendment 4 of the Constitution was ratified on December 15th, 1791. 1791, that's a long time ago. The protects the American people from reasonable searches and seizures. So it's been around a long time. It's been around a long time. In general, the police cannot search a person or their property without a warrant or a probable cause. It also applies to arrests and collections of evidence. Now, there's three exceptions to the Fourth Amendment. They include consensual searches, meaning if you say it's okay, they can search you. Certain brief investigatory stops, searches incident to a valid arrest, and seizures of item in plain view. So, if you're accused of doing drugs and the drugs are in plain view, then they can search you and so forth, like that. Now, the two most important causes of the Fourth Amendment is one focuses on the reasonable of a search and seizure, the other on warrants. The other on warrants. If you've been illegally searched by police or other law enforcement, you may be able to bring a claim against the government to recover for your injuries. These cases are brought under 42 USC 1983. It's a federal statute which allows individuals to sue the government for a violation of their civil rights. Violation of their civil rights. Um, what happens if you violate the Fourth Amendment? Any evidence collected as a result of unlawful search cannot be used against you. So, um, what Faye is talking about is that in her state, in Kentucky, they do this all the time. They violate the Fourth Amendment. And it's important that you have cameras. We all have phones now, so we can take cameras and shots of everything. It's literally what they take apart or so forth. So thank you, Faye, for bringing that to my attention. Um, you know, you out there, you can go to the internet and learn my Rule 4. You can find so much information. You need to know your amendments. You need to know your civil rights. You know, uh, civil rights are really important there. Civil rights. See, okay. Civil rights. You got to be really know them. Um, I'm trying to find the Attorney General has a good book on civil rights. Um, Attorney General of our country. And what we can do and what we cannot do. There's a lot of information in there. I just don't have the time to take it. But you need to study your civil rights and your constitutional rights and see how they violate it. With a good attorney, but you know, I've heard we've talked about attorneys, since October here. Yes, there are bad attorneys. There are attorneys that take your money, and I'm sorry they do so. But you, as a person, got to thoroughly research how to look for an attorney. And I want to close again that you can contact Vincent Davis for a strategy meeting. He will talk to you at 888-888-6582. And you can ask him during those 30 minutes for $60 of how to fight your case, get your children back. He will tell you that. So that is probably the cheapest $60 that you'll spend. You have nothing to lose. Yes, $60 is a lot of money. I'd have a hard time paying it myself. So I behoove all of you um, to be very knowledgeable about your case because that's how you're going to beat your case. That's how you're going to win it. What I know now, I would never have had a case. My case would have been thrown out from day one. What I know now. Mistakes I made was let them into my home, telling them too much information. Those were two valuable mistakes. The other mistake was is not contacting an attorney or tell them I need to talk to my attorney first before I go any further. I could have stopped them from entering my home. They didn't have a warrant. There was not extreme nature. The kids were at school. I could have said, "You're not coming to my home unless you have a warrant." I could have told the detective that was following me when he had a black and white pull me over, either write me a traffic violation or arrest me. I know that now. I know that now. So those are the mistakes that I made. I don't want to see you doing the same mistakes. Also, if you have done some stupid things, like do drugs or leave drugs around and so forth, you'll need to at least spend a year doing a drug test once a week. And it's expensive. It's expensive. Uh, Faye says they're 40 some bucks in Kentucky, they're 100 bucks in California. But you will get your children back. Not to give up hope. Not to give up hope. It's important in your life. We all get downers and want to give up. Don't give up. Leaving this world is the easy way out. Staying here behind and fighting it. I know we're in a world that's really corruption and it's on a teeter of a World War III. People are talking about it. I know in the Bible it talks about the end times. I'm not here to preach about that, but you have to be open to what you're doing, and you got to learn how to be nice to each other. I'll see you. Thank you. And so, you know, um, I love you all, and I really care about you all. I see close to the end of my show. It must be already over. Yeah, it's 8. It's 8 o'clock. I mean 11 o'clock, and I really want you to call back or listen again tonight at 7 p.m. and we'll talk further about things. Maybe some things you weren't able to talk about then, you can talk about then. I'm free to have anybody talk about anything about CPS. So God bless you all. Keep fighting for your children. This is Bob Pace signing out.